presentation.
Neki od vas ste možda prvi put ovde sa nama u ovoj našoj seriji prezentacija.
And we usually like to introduce our family as we get started.
I na početku obično želimo da predstavimo našu porodicu.
Okay, well, we've been married for 30 years.
Dobro, mi smo u braku već 30 godina.
And we have 2 young adult children.
Imamo dvoje odrasle dece.
Jessica and Julian.
Jessiku i Julijana.
We like to tell people that our family is not a perfect family.
I mi volimo da kažemo ljudima da naša porodica nije savršena porodica.
Our family is like your family.
Naša porodica je ista kao i vaša.
We're not exempt from any of the problems that any other families have.
Nismo mi izuzeti od bilo kojih problema koje imaju druge porodice.
But what we are convinced of is that God loves us.
Ali mi smo uvereni da nas Bog voli.
And that He's provided wisdom for us in His Word.
I da nam je On dao mudrost koju nalazimo u njegovoj reči.
And it helps us to keep our family on track.
I to nam pomaže da našu porodicu održavamo na okupu.
Just so you know that we actually did get married, we will show you a picture of our wedding.
Čisto da biste znali da smo zaista u braku, pokazat ćemo vam slike sa našeg venčanja.
I mean, I've changed more than Elaine has.
Ja sam se promenio više nego Elaine.
But it's the same smile. No hair, but the same teeth.
Nema kose, ali su zubi isti.
I haven't changed my teeth.
Nisam još uvijek promenio zube.
So, 30 years and 31 years in August.
30 godina do sada I bit će 31 u avgustu.
I still remember the day as if it were yesterday.
I još uvijek se sjećam tog dana kao da je bio juče.
I was so excited.
Bio sam tako uzbuđen.
I was a young pastor in New York City and I had a wife now.
Bio sam mladi pastor u New Yorku I imao sam sada ženu.
So having a wife, the Bible says, is a good thing.
Biblija kaže da imati ženu dobra stvar.
And it's been a good thing.
I bilo je do sada dobra stvar.
Those of you who are not yet married,
oni među vama koji još uvijek niste u braku,
take a look.
Pogledajte.
Especially the men.
Pogotovo muškarci.
You have hair now.
Imate kosu sada.
Hair now, gone tomorrow.
Danas je tu, sutra nije.
But hair is overrated anyway.
Ali kosa je onako precenjena.
The good thing about my status today is that I never have a bad hair day.
A dobra stvar u vezi sa mojim sadašnjim stanjem je da nikad nemam problem sa kosom.
Anyway, just so you know, that's when we got married.
U svakom slučaju samo da znate, ovako smo izgledali kad smo se uzeli.
One other thing we want to share with you is our new book.
Još jedna stvar koju hoćemo podelimo s vama je naša nova knjiga.
We named it after our television program.
Nazvali smo je po našem televizijskom programu.
Since that's the current branding that we're using.
Jer je to trenutni brand koji koristimo.
Real family talk.
Pravi porodični razgovori.
And we really deal with lots of questions that people have asked from around the world on issues on family and relationships.
I bavimo se raznim pitanjima koji su ljudi postavili širom sveta, a tiču se porodice I odnosa.
So those of you interested in that kind of material as pastors, as leaders, and even people who are married or in relationships.
Oni među vama koji ste zainteresovani za takav materijal kao pastori, vođe ili uopšte ljudi koji su bilo kakvog vrste odnosa.
You may want to get it. You may want to get it.
Možda biste htjeli da to nabavite.
Sister Maria tells me they're going to translate it into Serbian.
Sestra Marija mi kaže da će to biti prevedeno na srpski.
She's very good that way, so look for it soon.
Ona je dobro u tome, tako da očekujte to uskoro.
For those of you who speak English and read English,
za one među vama koji pričate I čitate engleski,
you can get it right now on Amazon.
Možete već sada naći na Amazonu.
Electronically, just download it onto your
to možete da downloadete
smartphones, on your iPads, and you have it.
Na vaš smartphone, tablet I imat ćete.
We just wanted you to be aware of the fact that is out there.
Samo želimo da znate da se to nalazi tamo negdje.
I actually have a hard copy with me.
Sa sobom imam I fizičku kopiju.
And before the end of our session here, somebody's going to get it.
I pre kraja našeg seminara danas, neko će dobiti.
So we just want you to be aware of that.
Samo želimo da budete svesni toga.
Dobro.
The paradox of marriage.
Paradoks braka.
Getting married is easy.
Lako je stupiti u brak.
Staying married is more difficult.
Ostati u njemu je mnogo teže.
Staying happily married for a lifetime would be considered among the fine arts.
A ostati u braku I biti srećan celog života spada u one fine umetnosti.
This is a quote that we found some years ago and the author is unknown.
To je jedan citat koji smo našli pre nekoliko godina, a autor je nepoznat.
But we think it speaks well about the state of marriage.
Ali mislimo da to dobro govori o stanju braka.
Everyone is in love with being in love.
Svako voli da bude zaljubljen.
And weddings around the world is big business.
A u širom sveta od venčanja se pravi veliki biznis, to je veliki posao.
We were in Japan a few months ago.
Pre nekoliko meseci bili smo u Japanu.
And everywhere we went, there were big billboards saying, "Have your wedding here. You'll have the most beautiful wedding."
I svuda je bilo velikih oglasnih tabli sa natpisom organizujte svoje venčanje ovde, možete imati najlepše venčanje ovde.
And as difficult as wedding planning might be,
koliko god da je teško isplanirati venčanje,
it's not anywhere as difficult as it is to stay happily married.
To ipak nije toliko teško kao ostati u braku i biti srećan.
And so we know that if we can stay happily married, it really does take us to the level of the fine arts.
I mi zaista znamo da ako uspemo da ostanemo u braku i budemo srećni u njemu, to zaista spada u domen onih prefinjenih umetnosti.
And today we want to share with you a few thoughts about what God's plan is for marriage.
Danas želimo da prenesemo vama koji su to Božji planovi za brak.
The world sort of presents marriage in glamorous weddings and beautiful gowns and tuxedos and nice receptions.
Svet oko nas želi da nam brak prikaže kao predivnu svadbenu svečanost, prelepu venčanicu, svečani sako.
And we even hear people talking about their marriage as a contract.
A ima i ljudi koji o braku razmišljaju kao o ugovoru.
But marriage is not intended to be a contract.
Međutim, nije namera braka da bude neka vrsta ugovora.
God intended for our marriages to be a covenant with one another.
Bog je zamislio da naši brakovi budu savezi, odnosno zaveti jednim za drugim.
Just as He has covenanted with us.
Kao što je On sklopio zavet sa nama.
And so in marriage, our love is to reflect God's glory.
I zato u našem braku naša ljubav treba da odslikava Božju slavu.
And that's what we're going to share with you today.
I o tome želimo da razgovaramo sa vama danas.
Ellen White has something to say about the process of marriage.
Ellen White ima nešto da kaže o procesu braka.
In fact, in Adventist Home, page 105, she says the following.
U temeljima Svečanog doma, na 105. strani, ona kaže sljedeće.
However carefully and wisely marriage may have been entered into,
bez obzira kako su pažljivo i mudro stupili u brak,
few couples are completely united when the marriage ceremony is performed.
Malo je bračnih drugova potpuno ujedinjeno odmah posle venčanja.
The real union of the two in wedlock is the work of the after years.
Prava bračna zajednica nastaje tek u godinama koje dolaze.
So being in love is wonderful.
Tako da biti zaljubljen je nešto divno.
For those of you who were at church yesterday when I spoke,
za one među vama koji ste bili u crkvi juče kada sam govorio,
I spoke about that whole notion of being in love and falling in love.
Govorio sam o celoj toj ideji biti zaljubljen i postati zaljubljen.
As a real high.
Kao o posebnoj vrsti uzbuđenja.
There are all these hormones that are secreted by the body when you see someone you are attracted to.
Postoje svi ti razni hormoni koji se luču u telu kada vidite nekoga koga smatrate privlačnim.
The blood rushes to the surface and begins to make your heart beat fast.
Krv dolazi do površine i vaše srce lupa brže.
You see a beautiful girl that catches your fancy and you are excited.
Vidite lepu devojku koja se sviđa i postajete uzbuđeni.
You see a handsome young man that you think, oh, he can be the father of my children, and you are excited.
Vidite mladog momka i pomislite, a on bi mogu da bude otac moje dece i postajete uzbuđeni.
It's a real high.
To je posebna vrsta uzbuđenja.
It happens in our physiology.
I dešava se u našoj fiziologiji.
People say, I'm in love.
Ljudi kažu, ja sam zaljubljen.
Oh, I always want to be in love.
I želim da uvek budem zaljubljen.
It feels so good.
Tako je dobar osjećaj.
You know what my marriage and family professor in graduate school used to say?
Moj profesor na studijama iz predmeta braka i porodica,
that kind of high.
Rekao mi je da ta vrsta uzbuđenja,
that high of being in love,
to uzbuđenje biti zaljubljen.
You're mentally deranged, he says.
To je vrsta mentalnog poremećaja.
It's a state of mental derangement.
To je stanje mentalne poremećenosti.
It's not all bad.
Nije sve to loše,
but it's not reality.
Ali nije realno.
So, to have a marriage that really works,
tako da imati brak koji zaista funkcioniše,
it's something we're going to have to do for the rest of our lives.
To je nešto čime ćemo morati se bavimo do kraja našeg života.
As Ellen White says, is the work of the after years.
Kao što Ellen White kaže, to je nešto što se dešava u godinama koje slede.
Almost 31 years for us.
Skoro 31 godina za nas.
In fact, a little longer than that since we met and fell in love.
Zapravo još i malo duže ako računamo vreme kad smo se upoznali i zaljubili se.
I would like to believe we walked into love.
Ja želim da verujem da smo mi ušetali, uhodali u ljubav.
It's much better that way.
Mnogo je bolje na taj način.
It's less dangerous that way.
Manje opasno na taj način.
Because when you fall in love, you might just hurt something.
Jer kada se zaljubite, engleski termin je padnete u ljubav.
Because falling is a bad thing.
Padanje je nešto loše.
So walk into love.
Tako da uhodajte u ljubav.
Make marriage a good thing every day.
Neka brak bude, učite da brak bude dobra stvar svakog dana.
Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down.
Nekada smo gore, nekada smo dole.
Fix it.
Popravite to.
Make it better.
Bude bolji.
Talk about it.
Pričajte o tome.
Arrange it. Solve it.
Uredite ga, rešite ga.
And have a great marriage going forward.
I imajte sjajan brak pred vama.
There's some research that comes out of the University of Denver that we'd like to share with you.
Postoji jedno istraživanje sa Univerziteta Denver o kojem bismo želeli da vam nešto kažemo.
And it has to do with factors that are associated with future distress or marital distress, future divorce or marital distress.
I odnosi se na faktore koji su povezani sa budućim problemima ili čak razvodom.
The researchers looked at couples that were doing well.
Istraživači su proučavali parove koji su imali dobru vezu.
And they identified that couples who have a good marriage, there are many ways in which they have a good marriage.
I onda su shvatili da brakovi koji imaju dobar brak, taj svoj dobar brak ostvaruju na više načina.
But couples who seem to have a lot of distress in their marriage or are headed towards divorce or have gotten divorced, they've identified particular factors that are associated with that trend.
Ali kada su proučavali parove koji su imali probleme u braku ili su išli u pravcu razvoda, pronašli su određene faktore koji su doprinijeli tome.
And so we're going to start, there are two sets of factors. There are static factors and dynamic factors.
Postoje dve vrste faktora, to su statički faktori i dinamički faktori.
And we're going to look at the static factors, which are things first. We'll first look at the static factors.
Prvo ćemo pogledati te statične faktore.
And those are things that cannot be changed or cannot easily be changed.
I oni se odnose na ono što ne može da se promeni ili ne može lako da se promeni.
Yeah, so the static factors cannot be changed or easily changed.
Statični faktori ne mogu da se promene ili ne mogu lako da se promene.
But we want you to know that they're not the main reasons why people are divorcing or experiencing distress.
Ali oni ipak želimo da znate da oni nisu primarni razlozi zašto se ljudi razvode ili žele da se razvode.
It's actually the dynamic factors.
Zapravo, glavni razlog su ovi dinamični faktori.
But we want you to be aware of the static factors.
Ali želimo da znate, da budete upoznati i sa statičnim faktorima.
Some personality factors.
To su faktori koji se tiču crta ličnosti.
It's static.
To je statično.
All of us have come to life, are born with a certain type of personality.
Svi smo se mi rodili sa određenom vrstom, određenim tipom ličnosti.
We don't choose it.
Mi to ne biramo.
The way the genes line up, we come out with that personality.
To je jednostavno način na koji su se naši geni ukrstili i mi jednostavno dobili smo tu...
You can't change it.
Ne možemo da promenimo.
For those of you who are familiar with temperaments,
za one od vas koji znate o temperamentima,
you know there are four basic temperaments.
Onda znate da postoje 4 osnovna temperamenta.
Sanguine,
sangvinik,
choleric, phlegmatic, melancholic,
i melancholic.
And we might be more one than the other.
I možemo biti više jedno nego ono drugo.
It's not good or bad.
Nije ni to ni dobro ni loše.
It just is.
To samo jednostavno jeste.
Every temperament has strengths and growth areas.
Svaki temperament ima svoje snage I oblasti u kojima može da raste napred.
And if you get people who have temperaments that are very different,
I ako imate ljude koji imaju veoma različite temperamente,
they're going to relate a certain way.
Oni će ući u određenu vrstu odnosa.
But you need to be aware of it.
I morate biti svesni toga.
Can't change it.
Ne možete ih promeniti.
You can grow in those growth areas.
Možete da napredujete u onim oblastima gdje je to moguće.
But it's who you are.
Ali to je ono što vi jeste.
Some people are very happy, excited.
Neki ljudi su veoma srećni, uzbuđeni.
Some people are more serious and reserved.
Neki ljudi su ozbiljni ili rezervisani.
It's just how you are.
To je
It's a static factor.
To je statičan faktor.
Parental divorce.
Razvod roditelja.
It's also a static factor.
Statični faktor.
If your parents got divorced,
ako su se vaši roditelji razveli,
you can't change it.
Vi to ne možete promeniti.
It's in the past.
To je u prošlosti.
It's going to affect you.
To će imati utjecaj na vas.
But it's a static factor.
Ali to je statičan faktor.
Since you can't change that,
s obzirom da to ne možete da promenite,
you need to be mindful of it.
Morate biti obazrivi.
And if you were affected in a very negative way,
I ako je to utjecalo na vas na veoma negativan način,
you may even want to go to counseling to talk about it.
Možda biste htjeli da odete na savjetovanje, da pričate o tome.
It's in the past, you can't change
Ali
it.
to u prošlosti ne možete ga promeniti.
Cohabitation history.
Istorija kohabitacije ili prethodnih odnosa.
If you live with your boyfriend or girlfriend before you got married, it's in the past. It's a static factor.
Ili vanbračnih zajednica. Ako ste živjeli sa vašim momkom ili devojkom pre braka, to je nešto što je u prošlosti, ne možete da utičete na to.
It's going to affect your marriage.
To će imati utjecaj na vaš brak.
American research says the following.
Američka istraživanja kažu sljedeće.
I don't know if there's any research in Serbia, but in the United States, the research that has been done.
Ne znam da li postoji ovakvo istraživanje u Srbiji, ali u Americi istraživanja kažu
suggest that people who live together before marriage,
da ljudi koji žive zajedno pre braka,
after they get married,
nakon što ustupe u brak,
they divorce at much higher rates than people who didn't live together before marriage.
Postoji veća šansa da se razvedu nego ljudi koji nisu živjeli zajedno pre braka.
But if you live with your boyfriend or girlfriend before you got married,
ali ako živite sa vašim momkom ili devojkom pre nego što ste se uzeli,
it's in the past, you can't do anything about it.
To je u prošlosti, ne možete ništa da uradite u vezi s tim.
Previous divorce is a static factor.
Prethodni razvodi
You can't change it.
Su statični faktori, ne možete da ih promenite.
We know that second marriages have higher divorces.
Znamo da drugi brakovi, drugi po redu imaju veću mogućnost razvoda.
Higher divorce rates than first marriages.
Veću stopu mogućnosti razvoda nego prvi brak.
But if you're divorced and remarried,
ali ako ste se razveli i ponovo ste stupili u brak,
it's what it is. You can't change it.
To je ono što jeste, ne možete ga promeniti.
But you need to be mindful of it.
Ali morate da budete svesni toga.
Religious dissimilarity.
Različita veroispovest.
It's also a static factor.
Ili religiozne razlike. To je statičan faktor.
If you're married to someone from a different faith,
ako ste ušli u brak sa nekim koje druge vere,
what we do know is that most times people do not convert.
Ono što znamo iz istraživanja da većina ovih ljudi ne promene svoju veroispovest.
We may have some miraculous stories in this room.
Mi možda ovdje u ovoj sobi znamo za neke čudotvorne priče.
Where your spouse converted.
Gdje su supružnici promenili svoju veroispovest.
But research suggests that most times that doesn't happen.
Ali istraživanja ukazuju na to da se u većini slučajeva to ne dešava.
And yet when you're married to someone from a different faith,
a ipak kad uđete u brak sa nekim iz druge veroispovesti,
it impacts your marriage.
To ima utjecaj na vaš brak.
Because people have different values when they have different faiths.
Jer ljudi kada dolaze iz različitih veroispovesti imaju različite sisteme vrednosti.
Young age at marriage is also a static factor.
Rano stupanje u brak je statičan faktor.
You got married young.
Ako ste ušli u brak kao mlada osoba,
you can't go back and change it.
Ne možete se vratiti da to promenite.
Here's what we know.
Evo ovo ono što znamo.
Physiologically speaking.
Govoreći fiziološki.
The center of judgment is found in the prefrontal cortex of the brain.
Centar za rasuđivanje se nalazi u predfrontalnom korteksu mozga.
And it's not fully developed until age 25.
I nije u potpunosti razvijen do 25. godine.
You get married before 25?
Ako se uđete u brak pre 25,
and your center of judgment is not fully developed.
A vaš centar za rasuđivanje nije još uvijek razvijen u potpunosti.
So now you're 30 and now you have judgment.
I odjednom sada imate 30 i sada imate sposobnost rasuđivanja.
But you're married already.
Ali već ste u braku.
Can't change it.
Ne možete to promeniti.
If you're a Christian, you trust God.
Ako ste hrišćani, onda verujete Bogu.
To give you a good attitude, to give you forgiveness.
Da vam da ispravan stav, da vam da oproštenje.
It's a static fact.
To je statičan faktor.
But you need to be aware of it.
Ali morate budete svjesni toga.
So those of you who are not yet married,
za one od vas koji
not yet married,
još uvijek niste u braku,
if you're not yet 25,
ako još uvijek imate 25,
wait a little more.
sačekajte još malo.
Okay, those are the static factors.
To su statični faktori.
All right, so remember, the static factors are things that cannot be changed or cannot easily be changed.
Znači, zapamtite, statični faktori su oni faktori koji ne mogu da se promene ili ne mogu lako da se promene.
And what the researchers found is that these are not the primary reasons why couples are experiencing distress.
I ono što su istraživači otkrili, to nisu oni prvenstveni razlozi zbog kojih bračni parovi doživljavaju probleme.
The dynamic factors are the primary reasons why couples are divorcing or having distress in their marriages.
Dinamički faktori su ti prvenstveni razlozi zbog kojih bračni parovi imaju bračne probleme ili se razvode.
And the dynamic factors are things that can be changed.
A dinamični faktori predstavljaju ono što se može promeniti.
So what are these dynamic factors?
Koji su to dinamični faktori?
They're interactive processes,
To su interaktivni procesi,
communication ability,
sposobnost komunikacije,
conflict management.
sposobnost rešavanja sukoba.
Those top three reasons
Ta prva tri razloga, faktora,
are the primary reasons why couples are experiencing distress and divorcing.
su prvenstveni razlozi zbog kojih bračni parovi doživljavaju probleme i razvode se.
In the United States and many other areas of the world, the number one reason that people report on their divorce papers for getting divorced is what we call irreconcilable differences.
U Sjedinjenim Američkim Državama, kao i u mnogim delovima sveta, jedan od razloga koji se navodi za probleme u braku i razvod su takozvane nepomirljive razlike.
And you know what irreconcilable differences are?
Znate koje su to nepomirljive razlike?
We don't get along.
Ne slažemo se.
We can't communicate.
Ne možemo da komuniciramo.
We don't interact positively with each other.
Ne se obraćamo jedno sa drugim na pozitivan način.
We don't know how to manage our conflict.
Ne znamo kako da rešimo svoje sukobe.
So it's not so much that our parents were divorced or we got married young or we have different belief systems, different faiths.
Nije to presuda da li smo se rano stupili u brak, da li su se naši roditelji razveli ili imamo različiti sistem religioznih vrednosti.
It's the fact that we just don't know how to communicate about it.
Nego se radi o tome da ne znamo kako da međusobno komuniciramo.
We don't know how to talk about the fact that we don't have enough money to pay the bills.
Ne znamo kako da porazgovaramo o tome da nemamo dovoljno para da platimo račune.
So rather than trying to solve the problem together, we attack each other.
I umjesto da pokušamo da zajedno rešimo problem, mi počinjemo da napadamo jedno drugo.
We blame each other, we shame each other.
Okrivljujemo jedno drugo, posramljujemo jedno drugo.
And when we don't resolve conflict, when there's blame, when there's shame in a relationship, nobody wants to be there.
I kada ne rešavamo sukobe, kada ima optuživanja, kada ima posramljivanja u braku, niko ne želi da ostane u takvom braku.
What I find so powerful about this research is that if these are the reasons why couples are divorcing or having distress, and they're things that can be changed, why can't we change it?
I ono što je meni veoma interesantno na osnovu ovih istraživanja, ako su to razlozi zbog kojih bračni parovi imaju probleme i razvode se, a to su faktori koji mogu da se promene, zašto ih onda ne menjamo?
It means then that most couples that find themselves in distress could actually turn it around and have a great marriage.
To znači da većina parova koja se našla u nekom problemu može da preokrene taj problem i da sačuva svoj brak.
So we want you to hold on to that.
I mi zato želimo da to imate na umu.
Now another dynamic factor is physical aggression.
Još jedan dinamični faktor jeste fizička agresivnost.
And that is not something that can be easily changed.
A to isto tako može da se lako promeni.
And that's a whole other topic by itself.
To je cijela jedna tema sama za sebe.
And we're not going to talk a lot about that today, but what we do want to say is that there's no room for any type of aggression in healthy marriages.
Danas nećemo puno vremena posvetiti tome, nećemo govoriti o tome, ali možemo da kažemo da nema mesta ni jednoj vrsti fizičke agresivnosti u jednom zdravom braku.
No pushing, no shoving, no hurting each other physically.
Nema mesta za guranje, za povređivanje, za fizičko ugnjetavanje na bilo koji način u braku.
Or emotional abuse.
Ili za emocionalnu zloupotrebu.
There's no room for it in healthy marriage.
Nema mesta tako nečemu u jednom zdravom braku.
And if anyone finds themselves in that situation, or you know of someone in that situation, that is definitely something where it would require some intervention, third-party intervention, help from a therapist to help that situation.
I ako ste se našli u jednom takvom odnosu ili znate za nekoga ko to doživljava, onda je tu potrebna uključenost treće strane, neke stručne pomoći koja bi mogla da pomogne paru koji doživljava tako nešto.
The last two dynamic factors are dysfunctional attitudes and commitment and motivation.
Poslednja dva dinamična faktora jesu disfunkcionalni stavovi i posvećenost i motivacija.
Many of our marriages are struggling because we have a very negative attitude about our relationship.
Mnogi od naših brakova su u problemu zato što mi ostvarujemo negativnu vezu, negativan odnos.
So if I wake up every morning and I say, oh, this is just a horrible marriage,
ako se budim svakog jutra i kažem, ja sam u užasnom braku,
I'm going to have a bad marriage.
I ja ću stvarno imati užasan ili loš brak.
You know, I often tell people that I'm going to stay married for 50 years.
Ja obično kažem ljudima nameravam da ostanem u braku 50 godina.
But if I say, 30 down, 20 to go.
Ako ja kažem 30 je već prošlo, još 20.
It's just not going to be a very happy marriage.
To onda neće biti srećan brak.
So we want to have a positive attitude about our relationship.
Želimo da imamo pozitivan stav prema našem odnosu.
We might say, you know, today I'm not feeling so great about this relationship.
Možda možemo da kažemo, danas baš nisam zadovoljan ili zadovoljna našim odnosom.
But I have a great marriage.
Ali ja ipak imam dobar brak.
With some sad times.
Sa nekim tužnim trenucima.
And then commitment and motivation. How motivated are we to really making the marriage better?
I onda ta posvećenost i motivacija nas pokreću da naš brak zaista poboljša.
Are we investing in the marriage the same way we invest in acquiring education or gardening or whatever other hobbies that we have?
Da li mi zaista u naš brak uložemo onoliko koliko bismo uložili recimo u sticanje obrazovanja, održavanje lepe bašte ili nešto slično što je nama drago, što je naš hobi?
Too often we get married and then we stop working at having a great relationship.
Često mi stupimo u brak i prestanemo da gradimo dobre odnose.
Because we figure, well, we already got each other, so now we don't have to do anything anymore.
Zato što smatramo, pa dobro, sad smo već dobili jedno drugo i nemamo sada više da se trudimo.
But we have to remain motivated in the relationship.
Mi treba stalno da budemo motivisani u našem odnosu.
Here's what we do know about the reality of marriage.
Evo šta znamo o realnosti ili istini braka.
It doesn't matter how happy you are.
Bez obzira na to koliko ste srećni.
Well, let's just picture it. It's a Sunday morning.
Evo, jedan primjer. Nedelja ujutro.
And one of you is getting married.
I neko među vama se venčava udaje.
And of course, I'm referring to someone here who's not yet married.
Naravno, mislim da neko od vas ko to nije još uvijek učinio.
So you're up front with the person you're getting married to.
I nalazite se napred sa osobom sa kojom se venčavate.
Pastor Trajkovski is doing the wedding.
Pastor Trajkovski vodi
He's just pronounced you husband and wife.
Upravo se proglasio mužem ženom.
People are crying.
Ljudi plaču.
The mothers, the aunts.
Majke, tetke.
I don't know if you throw rice still.
Ne znam da li još uvijek bacite pirinač ovdje.
You know, there's a little subscript on the program of the wedding.
Ima jedna tačka u programu venčanja.
Do not take pictures.
Koja ponekad glasi nemojte da slikate.
But no one is paying attention.
Ali niko to ne poštuje.
Everybody has their smartphone out.
Svi imaju svoje smartfone,
taking pictures.
Telefone slikaju.
And you're giddy and laughing and happy.
Svi su srećni, veseli, smeju se.
And you're walking down the aisle.
I prolazite kroz redove.
And I'm saying you're heading for alienation and separation.
I ja vam kažem, vi ste se uputili ka otuđenju i odvajanju.
Every couple.
Svaki brak,
Your marriage, oops,
svaki par,
your marriage will naturally move towards a state of alienation.
vaš brak će prirodno ići u pravcu otuđenja.
Everybody.
Svako.
We find couples who've been married for 5 years.
Imamo primjere ljudi koji su bili u braku 5 godina.
When they just got married.
A u trenutku kada su
they were excited.
Bili su uzbuđeni.
So happy.
Srećni.
Couldn't get enough of each other.
Nije im bilo dosta jedno drugog.
What happened?
Šta se desilo?
Alienation and separation.
Otuđenje i odvajanje.
How?
Kako?
Naturally.
Prirodno.
Why?
Zašto?
We're human.